All right, it's gonna be a quick video on how to do a transmission flush out. Not like a full flush where you got to hook up with that snap-on equipment. It's just you're going to be using your transmission pump to pump out the fluid. So this is a 5 SFE. It's a 99 Camry. It's going to be the same on most Camrys from like 97, probably 92 up until like 2010. So they're all pretty similar. The transmissions, how the lines go. So first thing you do, you get a 10 millimeter hex like this. It's a hex. I don't think you can see the transmission. You can see the bottom of the transmission pan. There's a bolt. I put the hex, the 10 millimeter hex socket in the bolt, in the plug. I shouldn't call it the bolt. Don't mind the sloppiness. This is not a professional. I usually tap it in, make sure it's in there nice and deep. And you just take it out, let the fluid drain out. Sometimes I let it drain overnight if I have time. If not, I just let it drain for like 15-20 minutes. That should be enough to get most of the fluid out. Sometimes the plug is in there really tight, so you have to put an extension on. I just use a pipe, especially the first time. From the factory, they tighten these up pretty good. So the first time, plus they sit for 100,000 miles plus. So just use a pipe and it'll pop, or you'll break your socket, which I did once. After it's done draining out, put the plug back in. You're gonna want to disconnect this line here. So this is the line that's gonna pump out of you pump the fluid out of your transmission. So disconnect this line. It's the driver's side. As you're facing it, it's the right-hand side line. My daughter has a 2009 Camry, and it's the same position. So use any pliers. I use these. I got these, I think, for Harbor Freight. It's just a clamp removal pliers. They work best for me. Simple enough. These little pliers I use. Like I said, you could use pretty much a pair of pliers and fight with it, but I always like these. They're just easier. They're built for it. That's what they're made for. It's my first time doing this on this car, so sometimes you have to get in there with a thin screwdriver and just wiggle it. Obviously don't try to poke through it. Just wiggle it around to make get the rubber to release from the metal. Try to get on there, see if you can wiggle it a little bit, get it free. Try to tighten there. So I'm going to pause the video and get two hands on there. So once it's off, you just take the hose off. I stick it through this hole right here into the bucket that's below it. Stick it in there where it's not going to pop out on you. Alright, so like that. There's no kinks in it. If you can see that, I got a little grease in my hands. Yeah, so the bucket's underneath there. Now you're gonna pop out your dipstick. Just gonna repeat myself, make sure your drain plug is back in. You got the drain tube going into your drain bucket. Then you're gonna put a minimum, what do you drain out? Usually around 3.5, just under 4 quarts of fluid just in the pan. So I put at least 6 in there. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to put at least 6 quarts in there. I got about 5 quarts in before it really started to slow down going in. So I'm going to start the car up in park and pump some out. See it coming out of the line there. Gonna try to pump out about 2 quarts. Gonna pause it now. So I always buy 2 gallons. I use either Dextron 3 with these old cars. That's what they came factory with. I'm using the WS, the full synthetic. People say different things. I've never had a problem switching over these old Dextron 3s to world standard, the Toyota WS. So, but that's what I had in my cabinet. So that's what I'm using right now. So I buy 8 quarts. So I drain 4, I put in 6, and I put in another 1, and I make sure I flush out as much as much as possible, which is 4 quarts. So you want to have a little, around 4 quarts left, and then you can get your level. So we'll do that in a second. I'm just gonna top it off. Okay, so I drained approximately 4 out of the factory fill. Then I put another 7 quarts into the fresh. Then I drained out approximately 3, and then I hooked the 2 back up to let it circulate. So now I'm gonna check the actual fluid. Right now the car is running, and obviously it's running. It's in park. Let's take a look. Well, it's about maybe a ½ an inch over the hot mark. So we're gonna drain a little bit more out. So all I gotta do is just disconnect that hose. I'm gonna drain probably maybe like a pint, or maybe even a ½ a pint out. And it should get me in between the two notches. So just to correct that, you want it in between those 2 sets of notches, one for hot, one for cold. You want it in between those 2 sets of 2 notches. That's all. All right, so it's a little bit maybe on the low side, but one thing I didn't do yet is go through the gears. That's one thing you want to do is just run through the gears: low, second, drive, reverse, all that good stuff. It gets all the fluid going through all the valve bodies and all the good stuff. I just put it in park, and we're gonna go check level again. So the car has 132,000. This is what the fluid that came out looked like. This is what the fluid on the dipstick is now. So it's it's a pretty good improvement. Some people say you don't have to change your transmission fluid ever, but I'm not in that boat. I don't believe that. I think it's reasonable to change it, at least once every 100,000 miles, and then drain and fill it every 25,000. That's what I do. So do as you think is the best for you. You do you. So that's all. Take it easy. Have a good day. Make sure you put your clamp back on. Make sure your plug is not leaking. The clamp on the hose. Make sure your fluid level's good, and that's pretty much it. You're good to go.